Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to Jim's 5 a.m. club. It's Monday morning. It's overcast. It's been raining for 3 or 4 days straight. Warragamba Dam is spilling water over at the rate of the entire Sydney Harbour every day. 100 Olympic-sized pools are being spilled every minute, whilst the Warragamba Dam is just overflowing with all of the rain that we received non-stop over the past 3 or 4 days. It's just amazing how vulnerable we are. It takes 3 or 4 days of constant rain, and the dam fills to the brim, starts spilling, and all of a sudden we have flood issues here in Sydney. Thank you very much for joining me on Jim's 5 a.m. club on this start of the week, start of the business week. It's the week of the Greek national holiday, celebrating on the 25th of March, Greek Independence Day, which coincides with Evangelismo, which is the Annunciation. So what I want to do today or this morning is probably stay here, I think, because going anywhere else I'll just get wet, is stand here with the umbrella and go through a book summary. And today's book summary that I've chosen to review, the one that I just read on the bus, is entitled Commpassion by Dr. Kristin Noff. And it's a very interesting book. It's a book that looks into the way that we manage our own mental health, physical health, and emotional health. And the author kicks off the book with a wonderful quote where she says that if you are constantly judging and criticizing yourself while trying to be kind to everybody else, you are drawing artificial boundaries and distinctions that only lead to feelings of separation and isolation. Just bear with me, I'll just pull my masks down a little bit more so I can speak a little bit freer. So the author then goes on to make an observation that the world appears to have become a more self-serving and selfish place, and this whole era of self-absorption and self-serving has also led to a degree of self-hatred. A very powerful observation. But where does all this self-hatred, where does all this self-absorption, where does all this self-criticism come from? And the author says that a lot of this, and you'd probably expect to understand this as well, a lot of this comes from everybody's childhood. Because when you look at your childhood, you may discover the source of your self-criticism. And the point that the author makes is that if you had a critical parent, you may also become self-critical, because one feeds the other. One is the cause, potentially, of the other. Because as children, it makes sense. As children, and as parents and as grandparents, we need to understand that children rely on us. As children, you rely on your parents, your grandparents, your uncles, your aunts, your carers to guide you and help you make sense of the world you live in. It's their guidance that you rely on, and it's so important to have good guidance to help you make sense, proper sense, so to speak, of the world that you live in. And we are all always, as children, looking up to them and seeking their approval and seeking their guidance. So it makes sense that if you have demanding and very critical parents or carers, then you develop these views, these unhealthy views of yourself. So it all depends. It all depends on how you grow up, what sort of teachers you have, what sort of carers you have, how your parents interface, because all of these inputs help provide you with a view of yourself. And before long, it makes sense that you end up making habits of being hard on yourself and just echoing their criticisms, echoing their negativity, echoing whatever input you have. You do it so that you can second guess and try and avoid the criticism that comes from your parent or carer, and you basically try and second guess it. So in order to second guess it, you push it upon yourself so that you don't have to live with it and deal with it and be embarrassed by it once you hear it from your carer, your parent, your grandparent, your uncle, your aunt, or whoever, your teacher, whoever it comes from. So all of those people in our past may have contributed in a positive way or a negative way. You know, the coaches that we've had, all of these people have an influence, a significant influence on our growth and development. So how do we solve it? How do we get around it? How do we deal with it? The next structured point to come out of this author's book is that you can start practicing self-compassion. And the way you do that is by thinking about how you would help a friend who is in the same situation. You can do this with your children, your grandchildren, you can do it with yourself, and you basically become the friend, the third party, but you're doing it to yourself. And you ask yourself some basic questions. Are you okay? And that's the entry point, the start of your relationship with yourself, where you are able to express, show the self-compassion that can help you get through, get over, get under, get around any of that self-criticism that you've generated over the years and internalized. Because one of the points that the author makes, it's a valid point, is that we need to shut down the logical thinking that focuses on the reasons and instead move that thinking away from the logical thinking and spend more time on the feeling, and to learn to give yourself a long and warm hug. Why not? You can do it to a friend, you can do it to a third party, you can do it to your children, your grandchildren, but you can also do it to yourself. A self-hug has a powerful impact on helping you get over the feelings of negativity that you may be portraying and pushing upon yourself. The other thing that the author talks about in terms of a technique that you may want to consider is that we need to become mindful, to express mindfulness and to be in the moment and present, and to put a psychological distance between you and your pain, and it will help you master a version of self-care. Because we have a Western view that may work for us and may work against us, where we maximize ourself. We see ourselves, the importance of the self as much greater than what other cultures may see the self. And I'll just get out of that rain because it's starting to pelt down now. And I'll just stand a little bit further back. And this Western view of maximising the self and bearing our own pains and internalising the suffering is something which may not be as healthy as what it can be. So the other interesting thing to understand is with all this self-help, with this self-compassion, is that you are both the giver and the receiver, which can prove to be a little awkward. The giver and the receiver. So in order to be able to master this, you need to create that psychological space in order to make it work. And you do this through mindfulness, where you don't get sucked into the emotions and you learn to take a step back. And you also learn to allow the frustration and the disappointment to play out and let it go without spending too much time trying to push it back, push it away, push it under and not deal with it. So once again, the author said in this book that you need to learn to be the giver and the receiver of your self-compassion, which is a little awkward, a little weird, but as we said, it is possible and you are capable of doing it as long as you understand the technique and what you can do about it. Anyway, I think I'll leave it there for today. So thank you very much for joining me on this very, very wet Sydney day, a day which has been probably the third or fourth day, as I said before, of continuous sheeting down rain. The breeze, as I can see up there on the bridge, is an easterly, a northeasterly, a gentle northeasterly. So it's bringing a lot of this rain back over Sydney from the ocean. And the reason for this super low that we're getting and the colliding of a couple of super lows is the fact that the ocean water is very warm at this time of year, and that's helping the condensation and keeping the rain localised and close to the coastline. So let's finish off with a positive affirmation. I'm alive, I'm well, I feel absolutely great. To my friends and family, stay connected, stay relevant, stay reasonable, and let's make the most of this unique day that we have today. Even though it's raining, even though it's uncomfortable, even though it's miserable, there is something that we can do. And I guess one of the things that we can possibly start practicing today and start incorporating in our lives is the art of self-compassion, where we are the receiver and the giver, and we learn to be less critical of ourselves and to look back over our lives and possibly do a bit of a self-assessment and to understand where some of this self-criticism has been spawned, and it usually is self-located or localised to our parents, our carers, our uncles, our aunts, our teachers, our coaches, our close circle of friends. There are always people who are very critical in our lives, and we need to manage that as best we can, shut it down in the best possible way we can in order to live, learn and pass it on, and be the wind beneath our own wings, as well as being the wind beneath the wings of the friends and family around us, and to learn to get on with life and not to sit and worry too much, and to be present, to be mindful, and to make the most of each and every moment. Yasas, take care. Bilakya from Jim's 5am Club, and I hope you gained something from today. So I think it's a very, very powerful and profound book summary. Take care. Bye. Yasas.